Reddit, what's a genuinely hurtful comment you can't forget? You're easily forgotten. It was said to me by my best friend after I was the only one in my class not invited to her pool party. I guess she thought that was a better alternative to my classmates not liking me. In a rather dark time in my life, someone said, "You're so awkward. No wonder nobody likes you." All of my insecurities were confirmed in that moment. So rude. There's nothing wrong with being awkward or a little different. I like people who aren't cookie cutter. Makes the world a lot more interesting. I am similar in age to a cousin of mine. My aunt used this to compare every little detail of our lives to each other. I was the undesirable one and my cousin was the intelligent one. I'll never forget the day she made us both stand next to each other. She was going to compare our heights but instead threw so many insults at me that I cried for hours in the bathroom. Whilst insulting me, she is there talking about how much better my cousin is and my mum even agreed with her. That hurt a lot. Your aunt is a bee, but frick your mother for not going to bat for you. Reading this story I find that seriously upsetting. Not a verbal comment but here goes. In elementary school I was a really shy kid and I was especially afraid of singing. Well, our teacher tells me I must sing or I'll fail. When I start singing she covers her ears and puts her head on the desk. That just broke me and I've never sang in front of anyone again. I've always loved singing. Karaoke, musical theater, alone in the house. It's all pretty great. Once I was in a play where I had to sing a particularly difficult song and I was straining from the effort of practicing it again and again. The director of the play then says in front of the whole room, "You're a great singer, Chisela, but boy do you look ugly when you sing." I don't think I've sung in front of a crowd since, One thing my middle school choir teacher told me, no one looks pretty when they sing. You literally can't go up there and belt it out without making some sort of silly face. Your teacher seems to have it backwards, but keep singing. Even if it's never in front of an audience, keep doing it if you love it. Your director was a T and shouldn't have had her position. You're nothing but a freaking mutt, Mom. She had a problem with taking her anger out on us kids. If we did something slightly wrong in her eyes on a bad day she'd tear into us for hours. Hours of yelling at us, telling us what she hates about us and everything she was disappointed in when it came to us. That one always stuck with me as an ethnically mixed individual who suffered a lot of bullying and racism growing up because of it. I was in elementary school and a bunch of kids, maybe 20, were playing tag at recess. The girl who said races by me and I'm running away and yelling and laughing along with everyone else. She stops, looks directly at me, and says I'm not chasing you and runs off. It was the first time anyone went out of their way to single me out and make me feel like crap. You're my backup friend. No one likes you. That's why I lied about my party so you didn't come. Said to me by my once best friend of 3 years. Once in my house I had my closest friends over and we were playing video games as per usual. Then one of the group readers decides we should order pizza but to his house, which is a 5-minute walk away. I was last to walk out of the room because I was tidying up after everyone. My friend turns to me and says, "You can't come. I don't want you in my house." I hope you told him he wasn't welcome in your house anymore. When I was 16, I came home late for dinner about 15 minutes and my dad punched me in the shoulder and said he wished he would never had adopted me. Apparently I was late for dinner more often than I thought, or he just had a stressful day at work. I don't know. That was the day that I found out I was adopted. Girls who seduce their own fathers go to heck. Told to me when I tried to tell my grandmother, his mother, about what was happening to me. I was 5. It was a while before I told anyone else. That's about as messed up as it gets. I used to work in a call center. A couple years ago my mom had a really bad hernia and was in the hospital for surgery very suddenly. 90% of her stomach, part of her intestines, and part of her pancreas were inside her chest cavity and her lung had partially collapsed to make room for all the other organs in there. I had rushed 4 hours to the hospital to be there when she got out of surgery. A couple days later I was back at work, still really upset at my mom having been in the hospital. A man called in having an issue with one of his sports channels and got very upset and told me, "You can't even help me out with my sports. I sure hope your parents never need you to take care of them." In the most cathartic moment I ever experienced at that job, I told him exactly what had happened to my mother just days prior. I told him that he was incredibly rude and that one channel being out on his TV did not give him the right to treat me the way he was treating me. Then I told him his ticket was being escalated to the office for review in the morning and hung up. Then I went to the bathroom and cried for a good 20 minutes. My high school makes the entire 11th grade go on a leadership camp before they start grade 12. During this camp we're separated from our normal friendship groups and pretty much forced to socialize and complete activities with people you normally don't hang out with. So I'm socializing with other people, which included one of the hot girls from the popular group, Laura. One exercise we had to do was climb a high ropes course with a partner. I asked if I could do it by myself, so the adult in charge let me. I'm scaling this thing pretty easily and a few other guys from the popular group are cheering me on, yelling "Go Death Proofer, your tank son." I also notice Laura is watching me and impressed. Something that felt good. I finish and we move on to the next exercise, which is another 2-person course. The adult asks who wants to go first. I'm still feeling pretty confident, so I jump up and say yep, I'll go. I needed a partner, so he asks one of the girls from the Asian group if they'd like to go with me. The one he asked looks at me and goes EWW. No. Laura was standing right in front of me and laughed. Any confidence I accumulated was gone and I felt like crap. This is a small one, but it's always stuck with me. I was on the softball team in high school and missed a fly ball as an outfielder. The next inning, the last one, game was tied. I was up to bat and one of my teammates said, "Well, this soap's up to bat. Maybe if we're lucky she can do something right." I struck out. Moments after everyone found out that my brother had lost his battle to cancer, my mom looked me in the eyes and asked me, "Why couldn't it have been you instead?" I've replayed that moment in my head every day for the past 8 years. I never would speak to her again. Girl, do you want to go out with me? Me. Yes. Girl, April Fools. Her and her friends all laugh at me. My ex, who I just recently broke up with, told me that I should get back with my other ex and have another child. Hopefully the same thing happens. This is in reference to us having our first child die in my arms. Jesus Christ, that's brutal. My mother, when I came out, I should have had a third kid. Maybe that one would have been normal. I wish I had a second mom, one that didn't say cruel things. I tried too hard to please my parents as a kid. When I was about 25, there was a family conversation that ended up covering how I didn't make much money. I was a newspaper reporter. When someone made reference to my master's degree, my mother said in a disgusted voice, "What a waste. Nothing ever hurt me more. And ever since I have not cared what anyone else thinks of me." Frick em. You know why you chose to study what you did. Parents always have their own ideas for how their kids will turn out, but it's your life. You do what you want. I've got 2. When I was about 12, some guy shoved me into a seat on the school bus. He sat next to me and spent the entire 40-minute ride laying on top of me, trapping me, and whispering, "You're the ugliest girl at school," over and over. When some other guy asked what was going on, I started crying and said what happened. He looked at me and said, "Well, he's right, ugly girl." I didn't talk to anyone at school for months, which didn't help my social situation. The other one was when I was in high school. My father came home incredibly drunk and told me I may not be his child. When I was still upset the next day, he yelled at me for disturbing his hangover and called me a whiny bee. "I'm so sorry. Your dad sounds like a piece of crap, and those boys are the ugly ones, not you." Those things people say behind your back, I can see they're all true now. Ouch, that hurt my feelings. In my last semester at college, my FNAID got bunged up to the extent that I only received $500. So, in my last semester at college, I quit eating to pay the rent, which eventually went under too. As such, I was generally, visually, a mess in class and completely useless at any assignment that required some cash. But when I was awake enough for it, I held my own in lectures, debates, and written assignments. I am extremely proud that I graduated. At the time, I didn't even consider dropping out, despite literally everything pointing to the fact that I should have. At graduation, one of my professors said, as I was going in for a handshake, "Oh, you're here. ETA FAQs. Because dang. People, how'd you do it mostly? The $5 for 5 pounds potato bags at Safeway, and my real MVP waitress roommate, who kept her tips in a jar and made a point to repeatedly tell me she didn't count them. Still paying off some debts from the time, but all is well now. Finals by some twist of fate. I only took electives that semester. It was applied media studies. Every final was an hour vocab test and a watch this movie then write words about it paper. The profs were luonsense over it. What the frick, right? Prof was known for being a loose cannon. Kind of. Other profs warned us that she was so blunt that she was probably bound to insult you sooner or later. The semester before, she hit her head and had to go to rehab for it and basically came back worse than ever attacked. So did you spit on her? Or, I don't recall, but I'm pretty sure I leaned into her face and laughed too loudly. I'm at least 6 inches taller than she is, so I did have the intimidation advantage. WTF is carrot ankles? There's some bone in your ankle that looks like a carrot. And I got this account after breaking off the tip of my left one to help me deal with sitting on my butt all day. All better now, but if I could have eaten them, I probably would have. Freaking right, you were there. You earned it. I went to my teacher face full of tears after getting bullied again in 3rd grade. Stop being a cribberby and go away. In high school I didn't really have many friends. Well, by the end I had a small group. Anyways, it was the Friday before Easter break and I was super excited about the upcoming week off. I was going to stay up late and watch TV to my heart's content. So I was on the school bus just waiting for my stop. I used to sit with a bunch of kids who were all friends. They would include me in their conversations but never made any attempt to include me in anything beyond that. They got off 1 or 2 stops before me, and as they gathering up their stuff to get off, one of the kids turns to me and says, "Since I know you're not going to leave your house during vacation, I'll just wish you a happy Easter now." All his friends laughed themselves silly as they filed off, and I could only stand there knowing he was 100% correct. Needless to say, it cast a pall over my vacation. Me and my sister got into a heated debate about beating your kids, and I brought up the higher suicide rate. Knowing I have a history of depression and self-harm, she looks me right in the eyes and says, "Well, at least then we'd stop getting calls from the school about you." Oh no, those seats are for handicapped people and people with heart problems. Context: my friend was born with half a heart and has a hard time breathing sometimes. You really wouldn't be able to tell unless he told you. Anyways, when we were 13, we went to a Patriots practice, where you can watch them for free, and the first row is always dedicated for handicapped people. My friend hates the fact that he can't play sports, go too high in the air, etc. because of his heart, so he tries to stay as normal as he can. Well, it was packed that day, and he was having trouble breathing again. We took him to the first row, and behind us are 2 college girls who politely inform us that that row is for handicapped people. My friend's dad calmly replies with how my friend is having trouble breathing and that he is, in fact, handicapped. They don't believe him. A small argument ensues. Staff is called over. It's a mess. His dad figures everything out. Staff are informed and aware. Not 2 minutes after that, another person is coming to sit down. "Sorry, lady, that row is for handicapped people only, and those with heart problems." Apparently, I don't think I've ever been that angry in my lifetime. My friend had quite the struggle with it, as did his parents. To this day, he's conscious about it and hates when people bring it up. The pair keep talking about it, genuinely not believing that he has anything wrong with him. Eventually, his dad starts telling him to turn around and take his shirt off. Why, see, when he was born, they had to stick a bunch of tubes inside of him and open up his chest, so he's pretty marked up. If they had seen that, it might have convinced the two. But no self-conscious 13-year-old wants to take off their shirt, exposing their irregular chest, in front of a large crowd. Eventually the pair leave, but I remember my friend being incredibly sad, reduced to tears even, the rest of the day. To this day, his family and myself harbor bad feelings for them. I am a totally confident dude and extremely happy with my appearance aside from one thing. I think I have a small mouth. I have never told anyone about that insecurity and it's never been even hinted at by others. Anyway, cut a long story short, I was asking a patron to leave a pub I was running and he proceeded to scream, frick you and your little mouth." Crap cut deep, man. I was a very tomboyish little daddy's girl growing up. Once while drunk and angry my mom told me, "The reason your dad and I decided to have your sister was so that I could have a daughter." That one stung. My abusive ex would always say things like, "No one will ever truly love you. I mean, look at you." He said did some pretty fricked up things, but this always stayed with me. I've moved on, happily married now, but there are still times I get ready for work, look in the mirror, and hear those words. I immediately have to look away. I came out to my mom when I was in the 8th grade. My girlfriend at the time had told her mom, who disapproved and threatened to tell my mom. I figured my mom would rather hear it from her own daughter. Anyway, I come out to her, which was incredibly difficult, and she looks at me and asks, "Is it because boys don't find you attractive? Is that why you like girls?" I guess it's pretty tame compared to some of the stuff in here, but it's stuck with me ever since. I have never been able to see myself as anything other than ugly after that. That is exactly what my mum said, almost word for word. No mum, never had a problem with men fancying me. I just prefer attention from women. On another note, she also said your brain tumor is a punishment for being a lesbian. Nice. Last year of university, meet a girl. Casual friendship turns to more than casual flirting, turns to dating, and we really hit it off. Everything is amazing. I mean absolutely superb, and I thought I'd found the one. Over the course of the next year we are getting pretty serious. Graduated. Found a full-time job. I'm about to move out from my best friends and roommate and to find a place with her instead, and starting to think about marriage. So one rather random night we are just hanging out, half watching a movie. We are curled up and comfortable. My arms around her, kissing her neck. She's teasing me by rubbing her butt against my groin and pulling my hands tight to her breasts. I start kissing her ear and then whisper, "I love you." Dot. She throws me off her, jumps up and says we have to break up. I think she's joking at first, give a half-assed chuckle and tell her it's a pretty lame joke. She looks at me, says she's not joking, and she's going to leave. I'm so lost and confused at this point I simply ask her why, and she says this was only ever something to do for a while, after which she left and never talked to me again except once. That freaking wrecked me. For years, and 13 years later I'd be lying if I said I ever really got over it. Little ad, the one exception. Ran into each other in a few situations after. I always tried to be polite and say hi, and she always ignored me. But then one day I run into her at a party for a friend. 30 minutes into it she pulls me aside and says, "I know things are awkward and uncomfortable between us. How can we fix that?" Which put me on the brink of complete rage. When I was in 6th grade I was in a group of about 10 girls and they all went back and forth telling me everything they hated about me, and they'd exaggeratedly imitate some of the weird things I do. I'm autistic. Until I ran away crying. Another time I was in the break room and my co-worker just looked at me and told me, "Your glasses look bad on you, they make you look ugly." She had thin light blonde hair that she always pulled back really tight and a large forehead, so I pointed it out in return. She wore her hair down after that. I love that you gave her a dose of her own medicine. That's something I'd like to be capable of in the moment, but never am. I always think of great comebacks hours later in the shower though. I used to be a restaurant manager. A customer booked a birthday party. She was really awkward, but I did everything she asked for. She ordered sandwiched but decided on the night she had 10 gluten intolerant guests. I sorted it for no extra charge. I brought her wine and chocolate out of my own pocket. I went the extra mile to make sure she had a good party. Halfway through the night I heard her calling me fat nat, and that fat bee that upset me. Lady reeks of insecurity. You're kind of boring. I mean, I'm fine with it now since I've realized that I like reading, and I honestly feel like if I've got nothing to say then I just won't say anything. So I guess I am boring, but at the time it hurt pretty bad. A neighbor told me this once. He was comparing me to his alcoholic daughter, so yeah, compared to her I'm boring. I also can drive legally and pay my own bills. You should have tried harder after a failed suicide attempt. Someone told me that too. People are freaking buttholes, man. You have been visited by the distinguished doggo of delicious delicacies. Comment tasty supper, pupper, and be blessed with delectable dishes for the next decade. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, Have a great day, you magnificent people.